Yes, good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to the Camp Verde Mayoral Candidate Forum. Our candidates will be on the ballot on August 4th, and our forum is being hosted today by the League of Women Voters Greater Verde Valley. And in these new times, we don't have a live audience, but the Verde Valley TV is videotaping this forum, and the video will be playing on Cable 1 Channel 56, Suddenlink Channel 2, and the Verde Valley TV YouTube channel, as well as in many places on social media and websites. My name is Barbara Luttrell. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters Greater Verde Valley, and I'll be the moderator for this forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. We envision a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. The purpose of our forum today is for you, the audience, to get to hear from the candidates why they want to be the mayor for the city of Camp Verde. We have also gathered questions from the public to present to you, to the candidates, so that they can answer them. The goal of our forum is fairness, civility, and engagement. Our timekeeper is Robin Lowe, and her role is to keep us all on time. She has 3 signs: a 1-minute sign, a 30-second sign, and a stop sign. And she'll raise the 1 minute, then the 30 seconds to tell you how much time you have left. And when she puts up the stop sign, it signals to please end your sentence. We ask 4 things of the candidates: to be respectful of each other's points of view, to speak your mind freely, don't engage in personal attacks, and please don't interrupt each other. There are time limits on responses to the questions, and they will be observed. I'll have the responsibility for enforcing time limits. And I'm really pleased that we have with us our candidates for mayor, Charles German and Denise Jenkins, known as D. Jenkins. And they've both given me permission to call them Charlie and Dee. So you will hear me giving them questions and asking them for comments and referring to them by their first name. So thank you. All right, our format for today's forum. We'll have opening remarks by each candidate. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves to you, our audience. This will be followed by 3-minute response to the question that was provided by the League of Women Voters Greater Verde Valley. The second part of our forum will be questions from the community, and you'll have 1 to 2 minutes to address each question, depending on the number of issues to be covered and the time available. You don't have to take the full amount of time, but we will plan, Robin, on 2 minutes for each of the questions. And if you use the 2 minutes, fine. If not, just at the end of it, say thank you. We know you're done with your answer on that. And the third part of our forum will be closing remarks. And you will each have 1 minute to share final comments on why you would like to serve the citizens of Camp Verde as mayor. All right? So we are going to begin our opening statements, and we will have each of you comment for 3 minutes to introduce yourself to the voters. And we'll begin with the current mayor, Charlie.
Okay. I'm Charles German, seeking another term, 2 years as mayor. I've spent the past 7 years focusing on the improvement to our infrastructure, which is necessary to have families and businesses locate in Camp Verde. Growth is coming. We cannot stop it, but we can certainly plan and approach it through smart applications of our general plan, best practices, and careful managing of our resources within our grasp. Just look at the past 7 years. We've had a new healthcare clinic with the recent addition of immediate care, the community library, which is the hub of the community, new builds for housing with manufactured housing, duplexes, apartments, and on-site houses. There's a new Circle K, O'Reilly's Automotive Parts, a Dollar General, and there are new businesses filling empty spaces. Renovations are taking place on the corner of Main Street and Fain Street as the COVID-19 pandemic runs its course. We're watching to see which businesses will reopen, adding to the re-energizing of our local economic engine. Wingfield Plaza is under new ownership and renovation for incoming business. Construction continues on the sports complex, road improvements at the entrance of the wastewater treatment plant, and the roadway into the rodeo arena. This is an exciting time for our residents to see new facilities soon to open. Especially exciting is a town partnership with the Arena Association in accomplishing so much while continuing to deal with COVID-19 issues. Some flood mitigation has taken place while other areas is still in process and continues with the negotiations of various agencies and property owners. The Town Council is continuing its investigation of the opportunity and advisability of the purchasing of the CV Water Company. The ownership of a municipal water facility is critical to the future of Camp Verde. This ownership is also tied closely to the Verde River, its conservation and best practices to utilize our water, both domestically and agriculturally. Without a water utility, the town has no opportunity to build its water portfolio, utilizing it what is rightfully they can claim, and as a municipality through the properties it owns and receives. Remember, the town must manage the utility with a published fee schedule which allows for the actual costs, including necessary repairs, without having a profit margin built into the fee schedule. The town cannot operate a water company at a profit or at a loss. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlie. And now we'll turn to Vice Mayor Dee Jenkins.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Dee Jenkins, and I'm a candidate for mayor of the town of Camp Verde. It's an honor to be sitting here today to provide the residents of Camp Verde a better understanding of who I am and what I stand for. I've lived in Arizona for 40 years and in Camp Verde for 23. For the last 19 years, I have worked for Quintus, a manufacturing company in Camp Verde. I have served in a variety of capacities, including chairman of the board of directors, chief financial officer, and general manager, with additional experience as a computer systems specialist, financial analyst, and purchasing agent. The time at Quintus has given me a unique skill set that would serve Camp Verde well as mayor. I have management, leadership, and financial skills that are critical to a well-run community. I was elected to town council in 2016, and in 2018, the council selected me to serve as vice mayor. One of my goals as mayor would be to work with town council manager and staff to recruit economic development opportunities to our community that fit well with our rural western environment. Economic development is much more than bringing new businesses to our community. We must also take steps to ensure the sustainability of our existing business. It is critical that we form a partnership with our businesses that will strengthen our community. Economic development is also about jobs for our citizens, affordable housing, and tax revenue that will sustain critical services to our community. I also feel that transparency in government is extremely important. This means openness in all aspects of our government as allowed by law. All areas of town are answerable to the public and should be open in public matters. This means public meetings, financial income and expenditures, communications, and all public records. Citizens should be encouraged to participate in their government through comments and questions. I would like to see more information shared in council meetings and on the town's website to allow for better informed public. Another issue that is near and dear to me is workforce development and education opportunities for adults and youth alike. As a past member of the Workforce Development Board of NACOG, I feel it's critical that the town work to develop a partnership with Yavapai College to ensure the Career and Technical Education Center becomes a reality in Camp Verde. This will ensure that we have sustainable workforce for our future economic development while providing skill set to our youth. My final point is that I love the friendly people, rural western lifestyle, and natural resources of the Verde River that makes up Camp Verde, and I want to do everything in my power to work with town staff and town council to ensure that Camp Verde is preserved for future generations. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Okay, now the League of Women Voters provided you ahead of time with one question, and it had a number of parts to it. But what we've done is kind of consolidated it. I don't know if you saw the updated question, but let me read it for you. The umbrella question is, what is your perspective on racial equity and community policing as it relates to Camp Verde and the Verde Valley? And among those things that we had sent out as things that you can think about, reflect on, included how you would describe the relationship between the local police and people of color in your community and in the Verde Valley. What actions you would take to ensure that police treat people equitably. What would be your response to evidence of wrongdoing? How do you think citizens can act locally and positively to address serious issues of racial equity? But that umbrella question is, what is your perspective on racial equity and community policing as related to Camp Verde and the Verde Valley? Dee, would you go first?
Sure. Thank you very much. First and foremost, I want to say that discrimination in any form is unacceptable. The tragic event that caused the death of Mr. Floyd is despicable. Camp Verde is a diverse community. In meeting with Marshall Rowley earlier this week, I was assured that there is a zero tolerance policy for discrimination. The chokehold used in the video is not an authorized method of restraint, that policies and procedures are up to current state and federal standards, that all officers attend diversity training and are equipped with state-of-the-art body cameras that record officers' encounters. Our town marshal took steps almost a year ago to form a citizens committee to encourage interaction between law enforcement and the community. This committee was unique to the area and a positive step of the marshal's office to encourage an open relationship between the department and our residents. The committee is an opportunity for public feedback to the Camp Verde Marshal's Office and for CVMO to provide information to the public on challenges that face our community. The Marshal also issues regular statistical reports on crime in the area and openly discusses his budget. The goal is to formulate programs to educate our youth, provide services, and allow the officers to have a closer working relationship with the general public. I've heard many positive comments that reflect the success of this program. Community policing is not just about feel-good relationships with the public. It's about protecting and serving the lives and property of Camp Verde citizens and businesses. I believe that the Marshal's steps to involve the public input in officer training has and will continue to go far in creating an environment of inclusion within our community. I would like to see more people involved in the meetings and hope that over time the participation will increase, allowing for an even stronger relationship between the community and our law enforcement officers. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yes, a lucky guess. I thought that she would be doing what you did.
Yes.
Thank you, Dee.
Thank you,
I'm
Charlie.
taking a little bit different slant on this from the standpoint that I've lived in Camp Verde since 1951. So I've seen no policing, and then I've seen policing. So let me just say I would describe the relationship between the local police and the people of color, including Hispanics and Native Americans, is very good. There will always be a tension between a lawbreaker and the policeman, regardless of color. There is prejudice by some in every ethnic group. There should be zero tolerance for any abuse by any governmental personnel, especially those who are sworn to protect and serve. The prejudice that I have witnessed over the years was expressed about the condition of the individual rather than the race of the individual. That is not to say that there are not individuals who see color and exhibit adverse behavior toward that. However, good policing involves analyzing the results of training, policies, accountability, is community-centered, and no tolerance for abuse of powers. Everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Policing in Camp Verde is to ensure the safety of our citizens with the responsibility of the council to address the core problem by providing opportunities through its codes, general plan, recreation, and cultural plans. Such development of economic opportunities engages the disadvantaged through jobs and housing. I watched the transition of the Native American living on subsistence payments through the federal government. I've also observed as economic opportunities developed through their casinos, bringing so many into a new status of involvement in their own economic success. There's a great emphasis in investment in education by the local tribal leaders for their citizens. They fully understand the importance of education and its relationship with its families, neighbors, and community. Very limited action is available to the mayor. The mayor may bring issues about policing to the manager And to the council, the mayor in Camp Verde does not have special powers granted like those in the mayor of Phoenix or some other large city. Camp Verde operates as a council manager form of government. All 7 council members publicly set policy. Council will continue to take measures which embrace best practices, training, and accountability, utilizing through the policing efforts by our marshal's office. There's a responsibility for citizens to appropriately respond to lawful orders and to comply with them. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Okay, now we have a series of questions, and we'll start going back and forth. So I'll start with you, Charlie, and then I'll start the next one with you, Dee. So the first question that I have is, cities and towns throughout the Verde Valley have a tradition of working together on endeavors such as the Verde Regional Economic Organization, VV-RIO, the Northern Arizona Council of Governments, the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, to name a few examples. Do you see a shared vision for the cities and towns of the Verde Valley at this time, to 2020? If so, can you describe that shared vision?
Yes, I was very fortunate just before I was running for mayor that I had an opportunity to meet with some of the leaders and leadership within the Verde Valley. What was really exciting to me is that a number of us went to Colorado and we explored how the Colorado was used as a string of pearls through with 3 towns along the Colorado River. And we came back and thought that, you know, whatever affects one community in the Verde Valley affects all of us. Mm-hmm. And what we would like to do is have the common goals to share that vision and being able to have people come as a recreation destination, because my goodness, there's so many things to do here in the Verde Valley, rather than just having people come and buy a plot of land and put up a house and then put a sippy straw in the Verde River. So we felt like that this would be a great deal of reassurance to the citizens here if people could come, and we have to have some sustainable growth and housing that sustains our school districts and things like that. But for us to work together on common goals that benefit us all is our aim, and that's what we've been trying to do for the last 7 years.
Great, thank you. Dee?
Thank you. As Vice Mayor, I have had too much opportunity to work with other municipalities within Verde Valley, but I recognize the absolute need to partnership in protecting our environment here, particularly the river, to work together not as competition, but as a goal to ensure that our services are given to all of our citizens, that we encourage our visitors to come here and visit and take care of what they see. And I look forward to building those partnerships, getting to know all the other municipalities and the mayors. It's a challenge. It would be a challenge for me and something that I very much look forward to doing.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, another question. The emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic has created change in many facets of our daily lives, as I'm sure you know, as we sit almost 6 feet apart. What do you see as the new normal for your community? Do you expect things to return to a pre-COVID-19 reality? Are there changes that have become apparent to you as a result of this pandemic? And if so, what are some of these changes and how might you address them in your communities? So how is COVID-19 changing life in Camp Verde? And is there something long-term that will be coming out of this? So Dee, maybe we'll start with you on this one.
Yes, on a daily basis, the 6-foot separation is practiced wherever I go in my work, in the community. Council, when we meet, we're very aware of being distant, wearing our masks. I believe, especially with the resurgence of some cases in Arizona, we'll continue to see this possibly through the end of the year. Over time, things become normal, and this may continue to be normal, at least in distancing, maybe not so much the masks as maybe the cases cease. But we wear masks now. I wear a mask when I'm out. I think we'll continue to do that until we feel more comfortable. the new norm, I think that is the new norm. I really believe that distancing will continue long into the future.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that we didn't get a closer jump on the pandemic as it came out, and the fact that the whole world, in essence, was caught by surprise. And so there were some dramatic things, and what I've experienced from a lot of my friends and relatives is they just don't know the seriousness of it and to what extent. And so as we learn more and more about this particular disease, COVID-19, we're becoming a little more knowledgeable about it, but there again, our supply chain is one of the most important things. That when we have to rely on other countries for our medical implements and for medicines, it seems like it would be prudent for us with the future to have our supply chain for those things that put us at risk. So as far as Dee has covered very well, as far as the new norm, I think that this probably will carry on. I think there's a lot of convenience with, like in our meetings, of Zoom meetings. I miss being there with my colleagues, but I think as people become more aware of the technology that's available, I think that they're beginning to find that telemed and Zoom meetings and GoToMeetings is really a convenient way to have those kinds of communications. And I think that the town will take opportunity to provide and facilitate that, to get those packets of information and printed information are sent out digitally for people to be very well of what we're doing as a community.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you. Yeah, I may never go to a live meeting again.
That's right.
We've all gotten so used to Zoom meetings. Okay, so Camp Verde operates as a council manager form of government. What does that mean to you? Charlie?
Well, that means to me that the manager, poor guy or poor woman, has 7 bosses. And if you can imagine trying to satisfy 7 people at the same time, that's quite a feat. But what it means is that 7 people, and that's why it's so important that they work in concert with each other, that they don't necessarily have to agree, but and debate the issues. My goodness, let's talk the policies and debate them, because out of that debate comes good, sound policy. But what does happen is that it's more a council decision as opposed to 1 or 2 that is lobbying the manager for something. It's really required and respectful of the rest of the council to be able to communicate what it is on your mind, and then we all discuss it, and then come to some good policy making.
Okay. Dee?
Thank you. I agree with Charlie. Our manager, there's 7 of us. We all have different personalities. He's adapted quite well to each of our personalities. What the manager council means to me is that council sets policy, goals, and the manager, he enacts those goals or tries to reach those goals, follows our direction, and he operates the town on a daily basis, and that certainly is a task every day. We thank him for that, especially with the COVID-19 having to adapt new rules every day for quite some time. It means to me also listening. As Charlie said, there's 7 of us. We all have our opinions. I learned so much from listening to everyone else speak. And then together, we're a team, and we come together and we make a decision that's always in the best interest of the town and of our citizens. That's always our goal.
Now, both of you are running to be mayor.
Yes,
okay?
ma'am.
So what is the unique role of the mayor in this council town manager form of government? Dee?
I think the manager leads. He sets by example. He also keeps us in line when he needs to with the gavel.
The mayor?
The mayor does. He is the face. I'm saying he because the mayor is a he right now. But the mayor is the face of Camp Verde. When people think of Camp Verde outside of our area, they're going to think about the mayor. And I don't know how else to say it. I just think that's That's the role of the mayor, is to be the leader, to set the example, to be the face of Camp Verde and represent us well throughout the valley and the state.
And the state. Charlie?
The unique thing about the mayor and common council is that we don't have districts, that we all serve for the entire community. And the mayor really has, Dee says, has to be the face of the community, not one special group that may lobby the manager or the council at one point in time. So that's really important. There aren't a whole lot of powers that are given to the mayor, that we can actually declare emergency when there's a necessary need, and we did that. I did that when the pandemic started, and that was so that we could effectively have some tools in our toolbox in the event that there was monetary supplements from the federal government or from the state, that had we not had that declaration, we would have missed the boat. So that's important. The only other thing that I can think of is it's a responsibility, and this is why we have to work together and have that understanding. The mayor has to have an understanding where all the council is, because he is really the voice for the council in saying what we've adopted and where we're headed. So when you don't understand 3 or 4 council members and where they might be on the policies or upcoming issues, it's really difficult as a mayor to speak on behalf of the council in saying this is what the council believes. And there's nothing that the mayor can promise without a vote of the council.
Okay, thank you. All right, our next question. In terms of the issues that are facing Camp Verde right now, what would you identify as the 2 main issues that residents of Camp Verde can and should be concerned about, and how are they being addressed? Charlie?
Well, boy, to come down to 2 issues.
I could have said, what are the issues, but I was worried.
Well, you did. And then give us 2 minutes to explain that.
That's okay.
I think one of the major issues Dee hit on in her opening remarks, and that is that we're confronted with the workforce employment as well as housing. We talk about affordable housing, but if you're in Flagstaff, what is affordable up there is far different from what it is in the Verde Valley. And so there's communications going on among our leaders within the Verde Valley, especially at the staff level, managers level, and looking at the possibilities of having a housing authority and operate county-wide, but particularly over here for workforce housing. And that's one of the critical needs. The other thing is, I think that the land use policy that the county has dealt with, I think some of the communities need to work with that, and also with the county in some areas. So I think that that's another particular area. And
okay, so you're identifying workforce.
Workforce and housing.
And housing. Okay. Could you just clarify workforce?
Well, people that have a job at, like for example, Burger King or some of the lower paying jobs, it's really difficult for them, and especially when there's a pandemic like this, that the hours are cut or they're out. What do they do while they're waiting for things to pass? A lot of them can wind up being homeless. Okay,
so we're talking about workforce as being an issue.
Yes.
And housing as being a separate issue.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure if you were talking about workforce housing.
Well, they kind of tie together.
They do tie together. They do. Dee, what would you identify as the 2 main issues?
I'm sorry. I was going to say it really is all interrelated. We need skilled workforce to fill the jobs, because we have to have a skilled workforce if we want to grow the economy. Businesses are not going to come to Camp Verde if there are not skilled labor to fill the positions. And yet it's difficult because housing is such a challenge. It's expensive to live. So it's like a never-ending circle. If you can get the businesses here that pay a very good wage, then they could afford the housing, and our youth will stay here. And they will have the choice of staying in Camp Verde, and that we become a sustainable income, and we provide job opportunities. So I'm probably not going to deviate from what Charlie says. For me, it's job opportunity and it's housing, but we have to have a workforce that's educated to do that.
Okay, so let's take it beyond jobs and housing, since you mentioned that there are probably more issues that are important, and you could go on about that. So, Dee, what might be another issue that you'd identify beside jobs and housing?
Again, it's probably going to keep circling around this. And from my business experience, I need to hire skilled labor. We need a place to train these folks, this youth, and our kids coming out of high school. The CET Center that Yavapai College is planned to build on 260, to me, is absolutely necessary for economic growth in Camp Verde. And they must align their programs with business needs and partner with the schools.
So is that career education
It's
training?
career education and it's skilled training. It's more than our kids going off to universities and colleges. It's giving them an opportunity to have a trade if they choose to go that way. I find at home I can get a doctor appointment quicker than a plumber or an electrician. There is an absolute need for that, and that would be a great program for the CET Center because there's a need.
Great, thank you. Charlie, what would you identify as another issue?
I would agree with Dee on the CTE. I would take a little different slant because this has been ongoing for years and years. We've had Yavapai College located physically in Camp Verde, and my thinking is that perhaps it's time to look to the legislature in order to be able to give immunity or give assistance to businesses where they can have internships with high schoolers, because not everybody signed up for a full day, especially when they get to be a junior or senior. And if they're looking at the trades, there's nothing like being in a business that deals with plumbing or in electrical work or whatever, that they can start there. Those people work and train them and could possibly become an employee of that particular business. So I take a little different slant, but if the CTE would work, I just know that Yavapai College has set up some classes for the trades and they haven't been able to fill those classes. So you have to analyze what's going on here. How can we do this a little differently? And so I would suggest that maybe being able to go to the businesses themselves and have the opportunity that they get a tax credit for each one of those interns that's there, and to be able to train them and then have them tested at state standards and certified when they
Great.
come up.
Okay. All right. Now, what does the Camp Verde General Plan say about sustainability, and what are your priorities for improving the sustainability of Camp Verde? I think we're up to D starting.
Sustainability. Oh, that's a refreshing word. Sustainability means to me is job opportunities, a continued revenue flow. It means growth, but it means planned growth. It has to be in line with our approved general plan. We have to maintain our character areas that's near and dear to us. They're there for a reason in our neighborhoods. So sustainability is maintaining what we put in the general plan and character areas, meaning we want to keep our neighborhoods the way that they are, the way that the culture is and the character of the neighborhoods, but we want growth, particularly in the opportunity zone. That's a unique thing for Camp Verde. We need to exploit our opportunity zone so that we have continued revenue, we have jobs, but it's in line with the general plan.
Wonderful. Thank you. Charlie?
I would agree with what Dee is saying. The major difference in Camp Verde is that we have so little. In fact, Camp Verde is not founded on property tax. So when you talk about a sustainable flow, it's unlike school districts. They don't worry about whether they're going to be funded from one year to the next. It is. So with a community that's funded through the cash registers, business really plays a huge part. And a pandemic can just knock the register drawers right out. And so the sustainability is really important. And the fact that what has really made another renewed interest in Camp Verde is when we adopted the character areas, because that gives certainty not only to the residents in residential areas, but it gives certainty to developers that want to come to Camp Verde. They know where they will fit. And then they can come into the community development office and say, this is what I have planned. How do we get there? This is where I think that we will fit. And that makes it, I remember Camp Verde in the early days when every resident had to go to a council meeting, because if there was anything on planning and zoning, they were there to protect their property that was in a residential, because you could build anything anywhere. So
Wow.
we've come a long way with the character areas, and it's brought a lot of certainty to the residents.
Terrific. Okay. Should Camp Verde purchase the water company? Charlie?
Yes. The reason that we need that is that we have properties.
Who owns the water company now?
The Bullard family.
Okay. Oh, so it's a family.
And it has been, in fact, Jim Bullard, the senior Jim Bullard, I knew him personally, and we, when I was with the fire department, helped develop the water system. We ran out of water on a number of fires, so we said we need a water system. So they put a large tank and helped finance through the Small Business Association. So what is really important about that is that whenever there's a development, there's roadways and sidewalks that's over property. Well, there's a water right that goes with that. Well, the developer signs that over to the town. Well, the town has to have some place to put that. It's paper water, but you have to have some place to bank it. And without a water company, by law, we have no place to bank water that rightfully belongs to the town. When Verde Lakes flooded years ago, a lot of properties were signed over to the town. Well, it's right there in the bottom of Clear Creek. There's water associated with those lots. We can't bank it, put it anywhere to make other residents whole with that water, even for municipal water. So that's my motivation and the importance of, it doesn't matter what water company we buy, because I understand a couple might be available, but right now the council has taken steps to pursue the CV water system. So that's why it's important.
Should Camp Verde buy the water company? Dee?
Well, that is definitely a hot subject. On one hand, if the town would purchase the water company, it provides security for current water users, and it also provides security for businesses that come in town because they know the water is going to be there because it's municipally owned. On the other hand, for me, I still like to see some information come in. We have authorized, I'm going to say, a state of the business report. As if you were buying a home, you'd have a home inspector go in. That's pretty much what we've asked for, is a report of their assets, their business practices, their equipment. What's important to me is if we do purchase the water company, that we understand the economic impact for the town, as well as it's maintaining rates. That if I ever have a conversation with the water users today, they're very concerned about rates. So we must determine that we can sustain the rates for some period of time.
Do citizens want you to purchase the water company?
I don't know that it's 50-50, but I hear it both ways. I think they're more concerned about their rates more than us purchasing, the town purchasing it. They're concerned about that the rates may go up. I think if there's some security in knowing the rates aren't going to increase for a period of time, we probably would get more positive feedback.
Charlie, what is your perspective on whether the citizens...
My perspective on this is most people look at the rates with the profit margin that's in the water company now. And if the town takes it over, automatically they believe that the rates are going to go up. When you take and purchase the water company, you can't operate it as a profit or at a loss. So the profit margin thereby helps us keep the rates as they are, and unless you have a major replacement of things, which would then go to the user fees, you may have to bond, or you may have to raise the rates or borrow money to take care of that fix. But I think most people, when they begin to understand, and the people that I've talked to that are really concerned about the rates and rates going up, they don't understand and recognize that there is a profit margin, and I dare say that it's going to be close to 40, maybe even more % of what the charges are for the profit for the family. You don't have that
as a
with the
private
town.
business, right?
And once we educate the community with that, plus when you have your water company, You can determine as a municipality as where you want to put the extensions of additional infrastructure. And if you're trying to protect and maintain smart growth, you do it by limiting the areas that you take water. That's why it's tied to the Verde River.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
May I make one comment?
Sure.
And I agree that I would like to see the state of the business and the finances. I agree that they've got a lot of profit built into their number, but we want to see the real numbers.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm really anxious to see that report that's going to tell us the status of the equipment, the wells, the infrastructure. That is really going to start the ball rolling which direction we go with it. So I'm anxious to see that report come back.
Charlie, do you want to comment?
Yeah.
I agree
Yeah.
wholeheartedly. For us to purchase a water company without that kind of information would be irresponsible.
Okay. All right. Now, we've seen a growing trend at the state level to disempower local governments and tie our hands regarding things like short-term rentals, cell towers, and more. The policy is known countrywide as state preemption, where they preempt the power of the local communities. Are you seeing this, and what do you feel is the best way to handle this going forward? Dee?
I'm trying to think what has come before us. I know we had one request about a cell phone tower, but that's quite a while ago. And you're talking about the B&Bs?
Right.
My personal opinion is I like the B&Bs as long as they're run well. I have B&Bs in my neighborhood, and honestly, I don't know when they have a guest and when they don't have a guest. The homeowners are very aware of their neighbors, and they take care of their neighbors as well as their own house that they rent or garage or whatever it is they've remodeled. I also understand it's a much bigger issue for Sedona, where folks have come in and bought blocks of homes and have really changed the face of a neighborhood. That would be disturbing to me if it happened in Camp Verde. Right now we're 43 square miles. It's spread out quite a bit. I'm not really hearing any complaints within neighborhoods that have B&Bs, and I applaud those people that have them, because that must mean they're doing a good job and they're supplementing their income, which I believe was part of the reason that this was approved. Folks do need to supplement their income. Certain cases, this is a way to do it, and it's been successful from what I've seen in Camp Verde.
Okay. Charlie?
The original idea of having bed and breakfast or whatever is that with an elderly couple or another couple that want to supplement their income, and there's no move in conversation among the leadership, even down to the State House, to remove that. What the problem is they, when outside businesses buy up parcels of land and put in a B&B, Airbnb, they don't have to register with the fire department. They don't have to register with the police department. They don't even have to, in some cases, they didn't even have to get a business license for it. So we're seeing some changes. What it does is, Dee says, it can change the neighborhood, but there's a definite separation. When you're going to operate it as a business, then it should be treated as a business. It's not the same as when you have a small mother-in-law building next to your own house and you want to rent it out. I can remember when there were professional teachers coming into Camp Verde and housing rentals for single individuals. Had it not been for another teacher that I know specifically having one of those little apartments next to her house, we would have lost that particular teacher who ended up retiring here. In Page, the closest rental housing for professionals, including nurses, teachers, police officers, is 140 miles away. So there has to be something that can be done to allow that those particular cities to be able to have sustainability in their own workforce.
Okay.
And that comes back to that.
And to bring it back to the larger question, which is the state mandating various policies, and taking away the local authority to regulate. Where do you stand on that position of the state preempting your ability to regulate your local situations? Have you experienced that, and do you have a point of view on that? Charlie, and then
we have experienced that to some degree. The fact that we haven't been really engaged in a lot of growth over a number of years, we have a spurt and then it drops off. We have a spurt and it drops off. But for them to mandate, and I understand why, it's the same thing with my 33 years in education. With you take the Phoenix Union High School district, it is easier for a neighborhood to go to the legislature and get legislation related to education than it is to go to that Phoenix Union High School district board and to make any kind of educational changes. And that's what's happened in Arizona. The same thing is happening when you have a powerful group of people that have money that can go and lobby. They can go to the legislature and do whatever they want to do and make it statewide. And it's hard for local, small, rural communities to stay on top of everything that's going on at the legislature to try and get a voice in to prevent that. But I think there has to be communication with your local representatives at the legislature, but sometimes it's in rural Arizona, it's like this thing is that the state of Maricopa County
right.
rules. So that's what I've seen through the years, and I don't know how that we can effectively combat that, or we'd like to be able to get our voice in. We do that through the League of Cities and Towns. We also have the Gamma Group, which is a Greater Arizona Mayors Association. So we've been more active, and I served 2 years as president of that, and they're very active in working with the legislatures and saying, you can't forget about us up here in this rural northern part of Arizona.
Great. Dee, would you like to comment on that?
I'm going to say certainly we don't like to give up any authority where we could take care of our own neighborhood and our own communities. There is definitely a place though for the state to have mandates and rules, policies for the entire state. I know that the League always works on behalf of us, and they voice our opinions. They do a very good job at lobbying on behalf of all the cities and towns, and I would look for them to continue to do that for us and just follow through.
Okay, let me ask you a question about being mayor. Is being mayor a full-time job in Camp Verde, and how does that affect your ability, time-wise, to be mayor of Camp Verde? It may not be a full-time job. You'll know that better. Dee, would you start?
Well, that's probably going to be difficult for me to ask because I've not been mayor. Charlie would better be able to answer how much time he spent. What was?
Well, do you have the time to dedicate the amount of time required to be the mayor of Camp Verde? I know you were mentioning earlier your career.
I'll try and answer that because I don't know the exact amount of time that Charlie spent. I know it is a great deal of time. It is a time commitment, and it would be it's a time management. Currently, I am working full-time with a company right in Camp Verde. Last December at a board meeting, I had already given my notice that this would be my last full year of working. As most people know, and I say it, I've worked 50 full years of full-time work, and I'm ready to do something else. There will be some succession planning. It won't be like a drop-dead date. I want to ensure that Quintus is taken care of when I go. I look forward to this challenge. I did speak with Mayor Alinsky, who also has a job and is mayor, and what was the biggest challenge for him, and he says it was time management. That's something I do every day when I work. I look forward to it, and I just look forward to the challenge and a new career.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yes, it really doesn't require full-time, but I'm a people person, and I've lived in Camp Verde for so many years, and pretty well known throughout the Verde Valley, that's just who I am. I put the time and the energy into it, and I feel very fortunate that I have the time being retired and with the connections and relationships to be able to put that kind of time in. But is it actually retired or required? It's really not. As we both say, that it's a council manager type of government. Council makes policy. Manager and his staff executes that policy. So I just have always felt that it's really nice, especially when we have a new general plan and we know what the focus of what Camp Verde wants. We have 3 documents that were voter approved. It makes it very easy for me to go out and talk to people and saying this is what Camp Verde residents want. And every 10 years we review that general plan and tweak it with how they might want to change in a particular neighborhood. So
Great.
that
Thank
gives
you.
me good guidance.
Okay. What are your, these are some questions that came from the public in Camp Verde. The League of Women Voters had sent out a press release and gave people a place where they could send the questions. What are your ideas regarding fair treatment of the public and volunteers who come before council? What are your ideas regarding fair treatment of the public and volunteers who come before council? Charlie,
Is that to me?
we'll start with you.
Well, I mean, that's just common decency of treating people decently, and that's our mission, is to be a service organization to our constituents. And when we mistreat them, then that's bad on us. Now, there are times that I'm sure that tempers wear thin and nerves are right at the surface, but that's one of the things that we as a council and as individuals of the council and as mayor, you have to train yourself to, okay, let's tone this back. Maybe we need to bring this back at a later date or something like that, or go and talk personally with that individual. But you just don't disparage people within the context of a meeting and treat them like you would anyone else, other than somebody that is there to gain knowledge and to be a citizen of the community.
Participating. Dee, would you comment on that?
Absolutely. Our volunteers help us be successful in our job as council members. We need our volunteers. We want to encourage our volunteers, and the way to do that is to appreciate them, to thank them, to be respectful to them, and to give them the tools that they need to do a good job as volunteers. That's really the bottom line. You just be kind to one another, be respectful, and thank them for doing a good job, because it is volunteer. They don't get paid for that, and it sure helps us when the volunteers step up. And it's a reflection of the entire town. When we see a huge population of volunteers come, that means they're happy and they're willing to help.
Okay. What is your, one of the questions that came in is, what is your background in finance? And if elected to the position of mayor, what steps will you take to ensure that Camp Verde remains financially stable during these challenging and uncertain times? Dee?
Well, I have a background in finance and accounting, of course.
What is your background?
My background is
In finance.
Well, I've spent just about 50 years in finance. I'm a financial analyst. I've done every level of accounting, clear up to a corporate accountant level, corporate tax returns, pretty much whatever would be necessary in either a small or a very large business. I've performed those duties. Camp Verde, we've been, from what I understand, we're not completely unscathed with COVID-19 and the revenue impact, but I think we're better off than most communities from the reports from last night. Financial responsibility means to me is, of course, living within a budget, developing a budget that provides services, necessary services to the citizens, being aware of what the operations are, staying within, paying reasonable and fair money for your contracts. And also the other side is in fees for our customers, which are our citizens, making sure those fees are fair and reasonable. That's financial responsibility to me. It's both sides. It's the money coming in and the money going out. Being fair, being wise, and making sure you get the best, buck for your money. That bang for your buck. You're right. It's a balancing act. That's just what it is.
Thank you. Charlie?
My background in finance has been when I was in college and I was working part-time. I started out as a manager training for McCory Corporation in retail. And I started in the basement and worked all the way up through handling the office. And so I had every aspect of retail as far as shipping, receiving, and invoices and merchandise and how to merchandise. Then I also, when I started teaching school, and I also served as board president for the school board, I spent 12 years on the school board and was actively involved in planning of the budgets there. That's where you know what your revenue basically is going to be from year to year because it's based on property tax. With the town and being operating on cash registers primarily, that you are like a part-time employee, that if you go to work you get paid. If you're not working, you're not being paid. And that's kind of what happens with Camp Verde. If there's an uptick in the service of people coming in and buying merchandise and shopping, then your revenues are pretty good. But if you have something like the pandemic and it drops off or people lose their jobs, it's the same kind of thing. So I keep really close watch on as the revenues come in, and that's really delegated to our finance director and our manager to keep a very close watch on what our budget says, what our revenues are, and when we see the revenues drop, we adjust the budget.
So is Camp Verde's budget based on sales and bed tax?
Pretty much. It's on the sales tax and some donations, and we spend a lot of time with our wastewater treatment plant. That's fee scheduled. And so there again, you can't operate that at a profit or at a loss.
So it's not a city property tax?
No.
No, there's not.
Okay.
The only property tax that we actually have was whenever the wastewater treatment was built and the people in the sewer district actually voted, and some still do not have service on the sewer, voted to go ahead in the interest of the town to have the sewer. Because the situation is that if you don't build it, state agencies do not care. They will come in and build it, and whatever it costs, you will pay for it.
Okay. Thank you. Did you want to add something to that, Dee?
Charlie's right. Camp Verde really is no different than most cities and towns. 50% or more of the revenue that come in is sales tax based. That's why it's so important that we have economic growth that's sustainable. We need that money going in the pot that's going to pay for all of our operations and provide services that the citizens deserve.
How is accountability handled, both in terms of the council and the staff in Camp Verde? How is accountability handled? Charlie?
Well, we have an annual audit through the private companies that come in, and I have to say that our staff in the finance area has done a really great job. They've been awarded and cited for excellent accounting procedures for that. So I'm just really confident not only in what the audits have shown, but in the personnel that are there, the manager as well as our our finance director and the staff. They are really knowledgeable people.
Okay. Dee?
Certainly the audit report tells you that we're managing the money well. It's being booked according to standard accounting practices. And the other part of accountability is to the citizens. They have every right to come in and request documents, request information. They do. It's as long as it's within the law, they're given that information. We welcome, I know I do, I'm sure Charlie does, we welcome questions. We welcome the opportunity to prove to our citizens that council's doing a good job at managing their money.
Okay, thank you. Now, you've both served on council. So as you look at your time on council, what would you consider to be your best accomplishment? I've lost track. Dee?
Well, this is my fourth year. Honestly, it took me a good year to get running and get my feet underneath of me, understanding the whole the difference between running a government and running a business. And I came to the conclusion it's very much the same, except I have to make a profit in my company. Here you get to spend the money. I think I'm going to say a couple of my accomplishments were Charlie and I worked on projects together. We worked on the manager's contract together. That was one of my first things that I really felt like I was accomplishing something and I was making a difference and working with another council member that I barely knew. I'm going to say that probably two things I'm most proud of, and that is during one of our budget sessions, I really wanted to raise the pay of our officers. We had enormous turnover. We became a training ground for other law enforcement throughout the valley. We had trouble keeping our officers. They now make a very fair, reasonable wage, and from what I understand, this is the first time in, I guess, a long time, I don't know when we could go back, that we're fully staffed. That's a tremendous effort, and that was all of us. I couldn't have done that and got that passed without the rest of council understanding that that was a real need. We were farther ahead in paying them a fair wage than retraining. It was costing us more to do that. And I'd say another accomplishment was I really wanted that our HR director have a degree. And have experience and have a full-time HR director. It had been a while, at least since I'd been there, we did not have a director. We had, the manager was assuming as the director. And I believe that has been a real successful hire. And it's still new, but she's done a wonderful job. And I think it's been a real plus for having someone in that role with a degree and experience. It's so beneficial to the town and to the employees.
Great. Charlie?
There's about four things that I see as significant, and again, I had a part in it, but the ultimate decision
Understood.
Comes back to council.
To council.
First of all, it was a realignment of Highway 260, and that brought greater connectivity among the communities, and it eliminated the head-on collisions, of which we had at least 10 deaths in 2 years. I see we just had a van and a truck collided at one of the, but they both walked away in that essence. They were not life-threatening injuries. The other thing is that I had an opportunity before I was seated and sworn in as mayor to go and talk to Verde Valley Medical Center and ask them about what they were going to do with their property along 260 and Finney Flat Road. And it came to existence that we found that they had Camp Verde, something would happen down a probably number 8 item that they would build. And after we got through talking, we wound up looking, and they moved it to number 2. And they put in 3 years from start to finish. The open house was almost to the date of 3 years of having our medical center. And more recently, we've brought that into immediate care, which means that, and it's primary care, anyone that comes in from another state, because it's oriented with our plan of recreation and coming here and spending some time and then going back home, at least they can set up and be treated there, because it'll fit their whatever their primary care is. The other thing is the general plan and bringing in the character areas. That brought certainty with everything, and once the voters approved that, the interest in Camp Verde skyrocketed.
Okay. Terrific. Okay, let's talk about Verde Connect. And that is the road, which I think has people who are for it, people who perhaps are not. It's somewhat controversial. The question is, where do you stand in terms of the Verde Connect project? Charlie?
Well, again, this planning situation, and I have some recommendation on how a situation like that could be avoided in the future, because what happens, there's a ball gets dropped whenever you have engineers at the state level and engineers in local municipalities, and it doesn't get communicated back to councils. Because what I found was that there was a resolution for that roadway that was signed by some of the very people that were on council that live in that neighborhood. My position at the current time is the council made it very clear. At the time, we voted a resolution of no build. And the reason we did was to protect the residents for the possible encroachment of a roadway through Mahoney Road, which would definitely have destroyed that neighborhood. So to preserve our character area, the council voted unanimously for a no build. Now, whether or not we've had an opportunity to come back to modify that to more neutral position, we haven't done that. But the position that we have right now is by law, and as mayor, I stand with the rest of the council until that resolution is changed.
Dee?
That's correct. The citizens, the residents of Middle Verde were loud and clear and in numbers voiced their disapproval of Verde Connect because of what they believe would happen to their neighborhood. We must maintain the character areas. That's voter approved general plan. I believe the Verde Connect would have just devastated that area. And as Charlie said, the council unanimously voted on a resolution for no build. It is my duty to follow that no build resolution, and I do it as a council member and as a citizen. I believe in that no build and protect the character area, absolutely.
Thank you. Is there any other issue that we should be talking about here right now? Is there another issue that you want to bring up?
Gosh, you cover quite a bit.
Do you think we've covered most of what Camp Verde cares about?
You know, I think I'm not sure how to accomplish it because you have a separate entity with the school board. But I think that there should be, in my view, and having been an educator for a long time, that there should be stronger communication between the school board and the town, because what the town does in relationship to sustainability as far as housing affects the bottom line of the revenues that are brought in on property tax with the school board. And so when we start talking about one of the first questions that someone coming in to purchase property or to develop, what are the schools like? Mm-hmm. And then they go from there. What's the housing like? And so any way that we can strengthen that, and that stands shoulder to shoulder with the Native Americans at Yan in their commitment for not only high school education, junior high, and post-high school. They're really committed to that. So I think if we can garner the strength of the three entities and put pressure where we need, whether it's legislative or whether it's through the State Board of Education or however that might happen, we might be able to make some significant improvements to our educational system.
Excellent. Dee, is there either commenting on that issue, or is there another issue that we haven't touched on?
It's pretty much the same issue. Education, jobs, planned growth is just all near and dear to me. We have to find a way to partner between the town of Camp Verde, the Camp Verde school system, Yavapai College, our economic development department, and new business. We have to find a way to partner so that we're all on the same page of what kind of growth we want, and will the growth fill the needs that we have to have within Camp Verde? Will it provide income? Will it provide good job opportunities? Will we take advantage of the opportunities? And we have to somehow find a way for us all to partner together and get on the same page going forward.
Okay, so I think we are at the point now where we can do our closing statements. And so we start it with Charlie. We'll start this time with Dee.
Thank you.
So you have, I believe it's 3 minutes.
One minute.
1 minute. 1 minute closing statement. And so this is an opportunity for you to really speak to the people of Camp Verde that you are asking to vote for you. Okay? So Dee, we'll start with you.
First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me. And Charlie, thank you.
Thank you.
In closing, I ask for your support and vote in the primary election on August the 4th. Please give me the opportunity to achieve the goals I have set for the town and to serve the entire community with honesty, integrity, and financial responsibility while encouraging open communication and public participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee. Charlie?
Again, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters, Greater Verde Valley,
you.
and to you as our moderator. You've heard my statements and answers to the questions. The message I have for you is that I will continue to work hard with my colleagues on the council to bring forward the best policies and leadership which will carry us into the future for our town. It is important that we work together with a common goal to develop wisely, preserve our past through smart planning and community involvement as we continue to review and modify our plans. I pledge to continue careful monitoring of our financial status as well as our revenues to debt ratio. When revenues fall below expectations, we take steps to reduce our spending to remain within our budget. I ask for your vote if you approve and support the positive direction we've gone in these past 7 years in following the voter-approved general plan, the Verde River Master Recreation Plan, and our soon-completed Focused Future 2 plan, and the coming of a Focused Future 3. I would appreciate your vote on August 4th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank both of you for your participation in this forum. And I'd like to remind the voters that Election Day for the primary election is August 4th. And the last day to register to vote is, or to change your party or change your address, is July 6th. And so voters, if you are not registered, please go to www.servicearizona, written out, servicearizona.com, www.servicearizona.com, and be sure to sign up for permanent early voting list, which will get you your ballot in the mail, where you can conveniently fill it out and get it in on time and easily. So thank you all for joining us. Thanks to both of you for participating today. The League of Women Voters is grateful to you and encourages our voters to be informed voters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.